Hey guys, Nunn here for my first in a series of videos about off-camera flash. We're going to talk about the basics, the concepts behind it, and then in later videos I'm going to go into some lighting styles and how-to guides on creating very specific looks and location lighting and gels and things like that. This is going to be a great video if you've never tried it before but are interested in it, maybe even if you've got the equipment but haven't really got to grips with it. It's something that I got interested in really early on with photography, using light to shape images, give more depth, more drama, maybe a little bit more focus onto a specific subject. It's something that really resonated with me. It can be a little daunting at first trying to work out how you're meant to take your flash from the top of your camera. This is kind of, you know, the traditional wedding photographer look. Maybe you'll bounce it off a bit of white card, or you'll point it at a white wall or ceiling and you'll try and bounce the light and shape it, or you'll shoot straight on and get these kind of lifeless images. And being able to take the flash off the camera and use it from different angles and maybe even using multiple lights to do that can really change an image really dramatically. If we talk about the concepts of it, how it works, what's involved in it, get a little bit of an understanding of it and it'll be a little bit less daunting. The great thing about this is it doesn't have to be really expensive equipment. Personally, I use the Canon 600EX RT along with the Canon ST-E3 RT. Now what we've got is a transmitter, and these flashes have got receivers built right into them. But actually, you don't need to have anything as expensive as these. I think we're talking about £600 or 200 good cups of coffee for this light, and I don't know, £200 or something for this. It's not a cheap way to get into Strobist photography, but you can do it slightly differently. You've got one option of going down the Chinese knockoff route. So this is a YN 600EX RT. It is a exact replica of the Canon product, but costs about £100 instead of 600. So that's one thing you can do. But actually, you can go even further than that. This is one of Canon's smallest, cheapest flash units. This is the 430EX. You could probably pick this up on eBay for £40. It's not an expensive bit of kit. It doesn't have any kind of receiver built into it, but that's fine because you can add those to them. If we take this stand off, what I've got here is a set of pocket wizards, and this is a transmitter and receiver unit. Now, what we do here is we actually put a flash onto the receiver unit, and suddenly there's wireless control over this unit. You can go even further than that. There's a fantastic set of triggers that I actually used for years and years and years, really basic. They're called RF602s, and I'll leave a link below. And I think for a transmitter and a receiver, it's about £20. And you can team that up with almost any flash. You want to get the right set for your camera, so if you use a Canon camera, you want to get the Canon compatible version, Nikon, etc. But actually, that's just the camera side. If you have an old flash that's a Nikon and you've got a Canon camera, you can use those flashes with these, because what we're going to do is we're going to use manual control on the flash. Now, I always use manual controls on my flash, so actually all the complex ETTL, automatic light measuring, metering stuff inside this flash, I've never used it in my life. Just about every flash that sits on top of the camera has got this same hot shoe style. This is kind of a universal thing. You'll see most cameras have got this same hot shoe on the top. As long as it can be triggered from that shoe, which they nearly all can, you can use one of these cheap triggers on. My first flash that I ever used, actually, I picked up from a flea market for I think £12. Bought some triggers off eBay, found these RF602s, and actually since buying those, since using those, they were flawless for years. I did eventually upgrade to the Canon ST-E3 RT, because what this can do is actually you can control the manual levels of the flash from the camera. This is great if you're lazy like me and don't like walking to your flash every time to adjust it. You can do it from the camera, but to get started, it's totally over the top. So for around the £40 mark, you can be set up with a way of triggering a flash from your camera remotely. And as soon as you take that flash off the top of the camera, you can do some really incredible things. and it's hands down my favorite type of photography. So to show you that in practice, we take this trigger unit and attach it to the top of the camera. This is switched on, broadcasting on channel 2. We take the flash and power that on. That is also linked to channel 2. It's got a receiver built into it. If it didn't have a receiver built into it, we would add one to the bottom. And we now have got a linked flash to the camera. So when I hit the shutter button, the flash thinks it's on the camera and fires the flash. So because these are linked, we can now move this flash anywhere within the range of the transmitter and start shaping light and making some really interesting dramatic images. So obviously what we need to do is find something to take a photo of to put this into practice. Let's go do that. So just how cool is this little camera? Massive thanks to my friend Gary of Gash Racing for giving me this, sending this to me. It was a lot of fun to put together. I really enjoy building things, putting things together like this. And I actually have put together a fully working camera myself. You build the shutter mechanism, it's got a proper shutter that fires, twin lens, takes 35mm film that you load in at the back in here. When the longer days run around, I'll definitely be loading that up with some film and taking it out. Let me show you what I've got set up here for these examples. So I've been out to my woodshed and I've picked up a good chunk of wood just to give this camera a little bit of height. So I've composed the shot in a way that I like. I've tripoded up my 5D Mark IV. I've popped the subject in front of it, close to the camera as I can, because that gives us a nice depth of field. The first thing I'm going to do is take a picture with absolutely no lighting, no flash or anything. I'm using the Canon 50mm 1.4, so I've opened that all the way up to 1.4, and I've got a shutter speed of 50th of a second. That's fine for what we're going to do. We don't really want to go much slower than that, but what we absolutely don't want to do when we're going to be looking at flash photography is go over 1/125th of a second. Once you go over that sort of speed, you start getting into dodgy waters, you start getting into tricky territory. So I'm just going to take a shot. This is an ISO 100, so what we're looking for here is a very underexposed image, and that's exactly what we've got. You can see there the image is way too dark. So we've got a couple of options. We can either take the ISO right up to something like 2000. What we've got now is a very evenly exposed scene. Not enough light on the front of the camera. It's almost a silhouette, even with the background that bright. We'll take the ISO back down to 100 and attach a flash to the top. And just as an example, this is going to be what it would be like if you were just to shoot straight from the top of the camera. We'll hit this button and we end up with this really flat image. For me, instantly know that this was an on-camera flash shot. The aesthetic is just, it's bad. I mean, it kind of works for some things, but it's just not my preference. So let's take the flash off the camera and let's add a transmitter. Putting the transmitter on the camera means that we're now going to be able to take our flash and move it around to the side of the subject. I'm going to grab a light stand and put it on. So I've moved my flash out to the side, I've put the trigger on top of the camera, and the subject's still in the same place. We've got the same framing with the same camera settings as when we started. So now it's really a trial and error process on getting the power right. Because we're so close to the subject here, I'm going to start with the power really low. I'm going to go all the way down. I think it's 128th power is where this flash goes down to. So we'll start there, we'll see how that looks, and we'll just move the flash around a few times and get a feel for how it looks as we start to move the flash. So let's hit that as it is. That looks okay. It's a little bit underexposed. It's very dramatic. I really like the way the background's being picked up on that. I'm going to move this flash a little bit closer, a little bit more towards the camera. And that's looking quite cool. Let's just try a few other positions and see how it looks. So you can see as I move around, I'm just taking a whole bunch of pictures, moving the flash every time until I see something that I start to like the look of. And actually, these shots where I'm a little bit higher feel pretty good. So what I might do is move this light up like this and point it straight down. It's going to be like a beam of light from the sky. I think this style from the top straight down is going to suit this really well. So let's just confirm that. That looks quite cool. I actually think now that we're up here, we just want a little bit more power. And that looks pretty cool. That looks really cool. So we've now got that light really high, hitting the subject. We've got not too much of that is splashing onto the background, and we're going to be able to edit that up and make a really fantastic, striking image in a way that you just never could have done. Let's just compare that to the shot where we had the flash mounted on the camera. You can see we've suddenly created something with a bit more drama to it. We're highlighting this object in a way that you just wouldn't be able to do without taking the flash off the camera. So lesson 1 done. We've worked out how to get the camera to wirelessly fire a flash. I think we composed a nice shot from a flash with no modifier, no diffuser, no umbrella. We'll get into that kind of stuff later. Directly hitting the object. It's just made it a more interesting image. It's just given us the ability to isolate, highlight, shape this image in a way that does it more justice. And you can do that with light. It's one of my favorite things about it. You can use it to really show people in the best possible way. You can contour their face, or you can highlight an object or add extra depth to an object, especially when you start adding 1 or 2 extra lights in there. Really interesting. So thanks so much for watching. Special shout out to Gary Gash Racing for this camera, and also another special thanks to Ben Grubb for providing me with the image of the RF602s when I couldn't find mine. We've just moved house. I don't know where half of my stuff is. Give me a thumbs up, give me a comment, any questions, anything you'd like to add, anything you'd like to see me cover in this Strobist series, do let me know. Thanks for watching, you've been great, stay gold.